Welcome to the Emperor Dynamite podcast, home of unchained free speech. Unleash your voice.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau declaring a public emergency for the first time in the country's history.
Canada is thriving. If you're a lobbyist, a billionaire, or a guy in a dress lecturing kindergartners about gender theory. For the rest of us, not so much. Inflation eating salaries like Trudeau eats up staged photo opportunities. Our healthcare system is so universal, you are universally waiting 10 hours to see a nurse if you are fortunate. But do not worry, friends, the CBC assures us all is well, and they would never, ever lie. Not for $1.2 billion a year anyway. Welcome to Canada is Not Okay, and here's why. Time for a reality check, and this one's going to hurt. You feel it. I feel it. Every normal Canadian feels it. The cost of living isn't just increasing, it's skyrocketing. Food, housing, gas, and the fundamental building blocks of existence have all been transformed into anxiety-inducing luxuries. While people struggle and go hungry, the elites claim everything is under control. Let's dismantle that illusion. Family grocery trip that once felt like a simple errand has morphed into a daunting financial challenge. Over the past few years, food prices have skyrocketed by more than 20%, transforming the familiar aisles of the grocery store into a maze of sticker shock. As you exit, you clutch 3 slim bags, yet the receipt in your hand resembles a bill for a major appliance. The cost of staple items is staggering. Bread now commands a hefty $4 a loaf, while a dozen eggs can set you back a surprising $6. If you want to grab a pack of ground beef for a family dinner, be prepared to part with nearly $12. And let's not even consider prices in the larger cities, where the same items can cost even more. Recent data from Food Banks Canada reveals a staggering statistic: 2 million visits each month. This alarming figure reflects not just the plight of the homeless or the unemployed, but includes an array of struggling individuals. Working families, seniors on fixed incomes, and even students juggling jobs are all part of this growing crisis. These are people who follow the rules, contribute to society, yet find themselves unable to put a decent meal on the table. Canada's not just in the middle of an economic crisis. We're bang in the middle of a cultural meltdown, and it's topsy-turvying on everything we thought we knew. It feels as though we are witnessing the transformation of our country, reshaped through the lens of gender studies seminars. So let's start with our schools. A long time ago, kids attended school to learn math, history, and read books with no pictures. Now, schools seem to prioritize teaching kids about pronouns and how to apologize for existing, rather than ensuring they can count to 20. Activities like drag queen story time in kindergarten appear to take precedence over fundamental educational skills. If you find this approach concerning, it's a sign that you're still holding on to common sense, something that feels quite revolutionary. In today's environment, and don't even get me started on colleges, they were once institutions of debate and genuine learning. Now it's an echo chamber of woke garbage where dissenting from the narrative gets you canceled quicker than a celebrity apology cycle. And the media is just as bad, too busy applauding, like trained seals for every woke stunt, and blind to how it's all transforming our children into little activists who can't read a pay stub. Meanwhile, our national pride is taking more hits than a piñata at a birthday party. The maple leaf, the anthem, all that stuff that made us proud to be Canadian, now it's colonial, racist, or problematic. Flags are torn down, statues are vandalized, and kids are growing up thinking Canada is basically a giant apology letter. But with the twist that everything that once passed for simple fundamental common sense, such as parents needing to know what's happening in classrooms or women's sports being reserved for, women, is suddenly being presented as though it's some kind of extreme view. Consider, children aren't allowed to say the anthem because it could offend, yet they're learning gender identities before they've even had snack time. This isn't a culture war. This is an all-out fight over who we are. If we don't fight for tradition, for sense, and for the notion that we should be proud of where we're from, we're finished. But here's the thing. People are waking up. The silent majority, they're making noise. Parents are angry. And regular Canadians are waking up to see that unless we start to resist, we're going to be stuck in this clown show forever. Let's discuss the media, or whatever I refer to as the propaganda mill that's been filling us up with garbage and terming it news. Canada's mainstream media isn't only letting us down, it is operating against us. Why? Because they're government-funded lapdogs, accountable to the same government that issues them their paychecks. When your survival hinges on taxpayer dollars, don't hold your breath for much of that whole hold power to account thing. You've seen it yourself, I'm sure. Headlines so brain-numbingly partisan you'd swear they were being penned by a liberal staffer on a sugar high. And meanwhile, actual issues get lost in clickbait nonsense, and we're left with headlines like Trudeau's Climate Crusade, How Canada Will Save the World, or Carney's Spending Spree, Necessary or Not. Spoiler alert, it's never not. It's always presented as just another noble sacrifice. We're all supposed to grit our teeth and swallow like unpleasant cough medicine. And meanwhile, what of the average Canadian? Left in the dark. Genuine journalism, the type that uncovers the truth, however ugly, has been commandeered by activist mouthpieces and surgically scripted talking points. But here's the silver lining. Citizen voices like yours are beginning to break through all the static. Podcasts, live streams, and social media rants, that's where the true story is getting out, because the so-called professionals sure as hell won't. So, here's what we're going to do on the show today. I'm not going to just rail about it, though. Come on, it's a good warm-up. I'm going to read some of these ridiculous headlines aloud and tear them apart, because if the media's not going to ask the questions that must be asked, then it's up to us, the ones who aren't going to be intimidated by taking a stand, to take the mic and set the record straight. Let's put the finishing touches on this puzzle with the final piece, the vacuum of leadership. While the economy struggles, our culture collapses, and the media does nothing but repeat official statements, where are the leaders to guide us? Oh, that's right, they're either taking selfies or off at some globalist conference. Just when you think things can't get any worse, we see Mark Carney at the forefront, a politician-turned-banker who seems to love a dollar and can't resist a carbon tax. Carney, as Prime Minister, is the ultimate insult to every Canadian who believed that leadership would be about service rather than selfish interests. This is the same man who fawned over the World Economic Forum while Canadians struggled with rising food and gas costs. Now he's in charge of everything: the economy, our culture, and the media that insists we should feel fortunate to have such enlightened leadership. Spare me. And seeking serious opposition? The so-called opposition is either too controlled, too timid, or too busy crafting their own sound bites to voice what the public is thinking. They're all playing nice in the sandbox while Canadians foot the bill literally. Meanwhile, the few brave voices willing to speak the truth are demonetized, shadow banned, or labeled as hazardous by the same propaganda outlets that lack the courage to stand up. Speaking the truth in Canada today is not just unpopular, it is essentially an act of rebellion. But that's why we are here, right? To call out the nonsense, name names, and demand more. We won't let Carney's deficits and virtue-signaling rhetoric go unchallenged. We're going to remove the rose-tinted glasses and tell Canadians what's really happening and how to respond to it. Because if we don't fill this leadership void, no one else will. In a time when disinformation travels faster than the truth, encouraging critical thinking has never been more important. It's not a question of taking in what we're told blindly. It's a matter of questioning, examining, and coming to conclusions based on fact, not fantasy. We need to challenge the status quo, ask the hard questions, and be accountable to those who have power. Aside from that, we need to share what we know, spark discussions, and not let lies become truths just because they're heard repeatedly. Mainstream media is no longer the gold standard. Bias, corporate interests, and political agendas have soiled the reporting landscape, and people have starved for genuine, unbiased discussion. That's where alternative media step in, free journalists, podcasts, and grassroots channels that call for truth rather than sensationalism. If we want to hear more truth-spewing dialogue, we must make it possible. Subscribe to their accounts, repost their items, join their conversations. The more we amplify independent voices, the more we shift the conversation from manipulation and toward open transparency. Real change begins in our own communities. It's easy to become caught up in national politics, but community activism has a direct impact on the daily lives of Canadians. Whether it's attending school board meetings, town halls, or rallies, these are the locations where real decisions are being made. Complaining about bad policies won't cut it. Getting engaged and making a voice for better leadership is the only way to turn the tide. Change doesn't start at the top. It starts with regular citizens who will make a difference. Waiting for Ottawa to fix our problems is unrealistic. Politicians give great speeches, but true change doesn't usually happen unless citizens demand it. If we just wait and do nothing, nothing will change. Pressure, action, and persistence are what get the job done, and that job starts with action at home. This country is worth fighting for, not with words, but with action. Words that cannot be ignored. People who stand firm on what they hold dear. Change happens when people voice themselves, when communities rise up, and when people refuse to accept that the cost of progress is mediocrity. Agree or disagree, let us talk. Let us debate. Let us revive the Canadian tradition of respectful, free-flowing debate. Email me, join the discussion, and be a part of the movement to take back honest conversation. Find me on YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, my podcast on Spotify, wherever you are for honest dialogue. Until we meet again, remain confident, stay dignified, and uphold your principles. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more.